In this abundance mindset video, I'm going to be teaching you how to cultivate an abundance mindset using 11 techniques and strategies that I've been using over the years and that many of my clients have used over the years in order to build successful businesses and sometimes even manifest money out of thin air. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure to stick around until the end because I'm going to be sharing a strategy that most people overlook and don't even talk about, and that is actually extremely misunderstood. Hi, my name is Amanda Abaya. Welcome to Mindful Success Path. On this channel, we help high achievers, high performers, business owners, and anybody who wants to live their best life achieve what it is that they desire in life without all the extra stress, chaos, and drama that most human beings are accustomed to. So if that is something that you are interested in, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we have coming out on this channel. We've been steadily growing, so thank you so much to all the new subscribers. If you want to take what we're talking about in this video to the next level, I've got two things to help you out in the description and also in the first comment. The first is our free manifestation guide. This shows you the 4-step process that I use in order to rewire my subconscious mind for success. This 4-step process helped me come back from the biggest burnout of my life to build brands that make 6 figures almost completely on autopilot, manifest my future husband. We're actually getting married in January, and also travel full-time and move to other countries. I'm now spending most of my time in Mexico. And I accomplished all of this in about 18 months after losing absolutely everything from my old life. So you can get the free download link below. And if you want to go into money specifically, then our money mindset reset course is available, and you can find the link to that below as well. Just click on the link and it'll tell you everything there is to know about the curriculum, how it works, what you get access to, and all the bonuses. Okay, so before getting into these 11 techniques that you can use to cultivate an abundance mindset, we first have to establish some things first. We have to have some definitions and some principles when it comes to money. Otherwise, I could tell you what these 11 techniques are, and they're either not going to work or you're going to get extremely frustrated. So there's certain principles that I want to teach you first in order to be able to get the best results from these techniques and have a better relationship with money overall. So the first principle is that you have to understand that money is energy. Now, I happen to have some Mexican pesos with me right now, so I could use them as examples in terms of how we relate to money, how to use money, and also I'm going to use it in a couple of the techniques and the exercises. Now, what's interesting about human beings is that they spend their entire lives chasing this, whether it's Mexican pesos or US dollars or Canadian dollars. We have international audiences, so it could be any currency that you can think of. And what's interesting about physical cash, right, is that it's just paper, right? It's just paper. The paper itself is essentially worthless, which then begs the question, okay, well then why do people think that this is worth anything? Like, why do people think that this bill is worth 20 Mexican pesos? And then who decided that this 20 Mexican pesos is the equivalent of, I want to say off the top of my head, 6 or 7 US dollars. It depends on the exchange rate. Like, who decided all of this, right? And the point that I'm trying to make here is that human beings decided all of this, and this is all completely made up. So what that tells us, right, is instead of us putting all our attention on these pieces of paper, what we need to do is we need to put our attention on the fact that money is an energy. It is a current. Now, what do we use to describe money in different countries? We use the term currency. So Mexican peso, US dollar, Canadian dollar, euro, rupees, bahts if you're in Thailand or in other parts of Southeast Asia. The word used to describe all these different paper money throughout the world, depending on the country, is currency. And one of the things that I've noticed, especially being in Mexico and then having to deal with different currencies between different countries, is that the same principles apply pretty much wherever you are if you understand that money is energy. a Mexican person, right, could understand that money is energy and have an extremely abundant, wealthy life the same way that an American person can, even if, right, theoretically and technically and also literally the Mexican peso is worth less than the American dollar. That does not mean that a Mexican can be any less wealthy if they understand these principles, one of them being money is energy. Currency is a current. It's something that just moves in and out. And what that means is that we're actually in control of it. Most people live their lives out of control because they think this controls their life without realizing that this piece of paper is essentially worthless, and it's human beings that decided it's worth anything, and that money is just energy. So that brings us to the next point, right? If this is essentially worthless, right, then what is, and money is energy, where does it come from, right? Prosperity and abundance is an internal state, okay? It's something that is cultivated from within. And I'll give some concrete examples to show you exactly what it is that I mean. Most people think that money comes from a job. It does not. Money comes from internal resources within. And if you understand this, then you will more easily manifest money into your life. Money comes from plugging into consciousness, not from a job or anything outside of you. I will give you an example. A couple weeks ago, I was sitting in meditation, and I got this idea to open some public seats to a YouTube workshop that we were doing for our mastermind clients at the end of October. It's our YouTube Mastery Workshop. And I was already doing it for our mastermind clients, and I was sitting in meditation, and I got the very clear message, hey, open seats to the public, right? Like open 20 seats to the public. You know, they'll have to pay for their seat, but make that available for people. And what I did that day is I made a Facebook post to test it and saying, hey, I'm going to do a workshop where I'm teaching how we grew the Entrepreneur Expat channel to 6 figures in sales in 90 days, over 100,000 views, over 1,000 subscribers. I'm going to be putting a workshop together. If you're interested, put interested in the comments. And it was comment after comment after comment after comment after comment after comment. I ran to Justin and I said, oh my God, we have to figure out a sales page now. And we got all the tech stuff figured out behind the scenes that same day. Within 24 hours, we were already selling spots to that workshop without any sales calls. It was straight from emails and social media posts. Now, what's interesting, and I'll get to this later on in terms of the shift that I made, is that I had never had success like that before selling workshops off of social media posts. I had a limiting belief that there always had to be some sort of a call or conversation involved, but I will get to that later on in this video. The point that I'm trying to make right now is that the idea came from within. The idea came from plugging in. Most people think that prosperity is like physical cash, and they try and change their outside circumstances, and they don't realize that it's all in here. It's all internal. I had an idea. I executed on the idea that same day. That idea has generated thousands of dollars because prosperity is an inside thing. And then finally, the third principle is that money can come in all kinds of ways. So in the last principle, I mentioned how money, everybody thinks it comes from a job. Or if we're talking to high achievers and high performers, they all think it comes from their hustle and grind and their control of everything. The truth is you can't really control anything going on outside of you, so that's all an illusion anyway. And if prosperity is an internal state and money is just energy, then that means money can come in all kinds of ways. And this is an area where I used to limit myself a lot because I didn't totally understand this. I was like, yeah, I can manifest money all I want, but it has to be through my business, right? Yeah, I can manifest money all I want, but it has to be through a job. We start putting limitations and conditions on how that money can come in, when in reality, money can come in all kinds of ways. There's people who don't work at all for money because they just live off of investments. There's people who've won lotteries. I can manifest money through Justin. In fact, I have manifested money and prosperity through Justin. So maybe it didn't come directly to me, right? But it came to him and I benefit from it. We've gotten money from inheritances or life insurance policies. This happened to me actually earlier this year and I couldn't even believe it. I got a refund check from the IRS, earlier this year because they were like, hey, you overpaid on this one thing. So they sent a check completely out of the blue, out of nowhere. I wasn't even expecting this thing. So money can come in all kinds of different ways. And that is a part of having an abundance mindset, is expanding our container of how money can come in to our lives. Very, very important to understand this. Otherwise, we're really limiting ourselves and then we're making it more difficult to create money momentum. Okay, so now let's get into the 11 ways to an abundance mindset and money momentum in your life. A lot of these are very simple, but you'd be surprised at how many people don't do them consistently, and then they wonder why they're not getting results. So number one, you've probably heard it a million times, is gratitude. I do a gratitude list every morning and I do it every night. Justin and I have an exercise called Wins in Gratitude that we do every single day. We also do it with our clients in our mastermind in the Slack channel. But the idea is that we are always grateful for something. And I try and fill up the page. So I'll come up with like 20 things each time I do this assignment. And then Justin and I will rattle off as many things as we can think of in terms of being grateful. So right now I'm grateful for these, 100 Mexican pesos that I have sitting right here. Right now I'm grateful for a platform like YouTube that allows me to get in front of so many people and has brought so much business our way. I'm grateful for all the clients that we have. I'm grateful for the money in the bank and the money on its way. Don't forget about the money on its way when you're practicing gratitude. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful that, we have our travel for November, December, and January completely booked and paid for. I'm grateful for all the traveling that we're going to be doing. I'm grateful for our cat and our dog. I'm grateful for our friends. I'm just like grateful all the time. I'm grateful for this iPhone that allows me to film videos. So this attitude of gratitude is what we really have to start cultivating. The more grateful you are, the more things you're going to attract into your life with which to be grateful for. So that's number one. Number two, this one's challenging. Enjoy paying your bills. Now, when we receive money, a lot of us are like, woohoo, yay, I got money. But when we have to pay a bill or we have to spend money, usually we do not feel that way. Human beings see spending money as something extremely painful, and we feel pain more than it is that we feel pleasure because A, that's how our brains are wired, but B, that's also how we've been conditioned. And I'll get to pleasure momentarily, but we have to start learning how to enjoy paying bills. So I've started to make it a habit. I'm not good at this. I will admittedly say that this is one where I struggle, and most people do. But I have made a conscious effort to get into the habit that if I have to pay something, I'm going to practice gratitude. And I got a lesson in that earlier this week because I had a surprise bill from the IRS that I was not expecting. Now, I practiced gratitude because I did not miss the deadline. I was waiting on some paperwork. I did not miss the deadline, therefore there weren't extra penalties, so that was gratitude. And then I had to learn to practice gratitude and enjoy the fact that I had the money sitting in the account in order to be able to pay the IRS and also the accountant, no problem, with money left over. My immediate reaction was like, dang it, I have to pay the IRS. But then I had to pause and then practice this abundance mindset technique. And then I started to feel better, right? So start learning how to enjoy spending money, enjoy practicing gratitude that you even have the money to spend, practicing gratitude that, you have lights in your house, practicing gratitude for your iPhone. Like I said, that money is paid for or is paying for. So practicing gratitude, because the truth is a lot of people try and control and constrict the flow of money, but it's currency and it's energy and it needs to be in circulation. So practice gratitude when you are circulating money. Next is to save money to invest, not for a rainy day. So I spent 8 years as a personal finance educator. I wrote a lot of marketing for banks. I did campaign. I spent 8 years learning more traditional personal finance. And in traditional personal finance, you will often hear somebody say, hey, you have to have 6 months saved up in an emergency fund. Here's the thing. If you name your account emergency fund, you will absolutely manifest emergencies. That's why people have this one of the patterns people have is like, oh man, I finally filled the emergency fund and then boom, my car broke down, or I had this emergency, or I had to pay this thing that I wasn't expecting, because that's what you're literally manifesting into your life if you're saving for a rainy day. So rather than saving money, which is also not that helpful because you are constricting the flow of money rather than letting it circulate, save money in order to invest the money and in order to use the money. So for example, right, I have a savings account that's for travel. My emergency fund, I don't call it an emergency fund. I don't have one. It's an opportunity fund. So you see the difference in the terminology, because words are extremely powerful. Stop manifesting emergencies out here. And then in addition to that, I have another account where I put money that I don't know what I'm going to invest that money in yet, but the money is earmarked for investments. I just don't know what the investment is yet. So you save to invest, not save just to save or save for emergencies. You save in order to use money. Okay. Next thing is forgive your debt. Debt is something that is really hard for people. Maybe you have student loans. Maybe, things in the United States right now are like tough in terms of what people are able to do. So a lot of people find themselves in consumer debt, and then we have this societal programming and conditioning that debt is bad, debt is evil, debt is a devil. You should feel very shameful about debt. So the first thing I'm going to say about forgiving your debt is actually something you should keep in mind generally when it comes to money, which is stop making it good or bad. Stop making your financial situation good or bad. Money is neutral, and whatever you have going on in your bank account right now is just data, and it's just an external reflection of what you have going on internally. So it's not good or bad, it's just data. And debt is one of the areas where we really have to learn how to do that, because we have all this societal programming around how bad it is. And a lot of that has to do with a lack of financial education, because the truth is that you can use debt as leverage. And this is one that I've also been working in my life, because I still have some debt left over from a few years ago when I crashed and burned, and I had all these investments in a business. Now, what's interesting is I'm starting to see the return on that investment, on that debt now, a few years later. It wasn't immediate. It's a few years later where I'm starting to see the return on those investments. Not just financially, but just in my life in general. Actually, it was me getting into that debt that allowed me to meet Justin, right? So rather than looking at the debt as like this horrible mistake I made, it's terrible, let me punish myself, that's what most people do. It's really thanking the debt for being like, wow, I manifested a situation where I could pay for stuff before I actually had the money. Wow, that credit card allowed me to join this networking event where I met my future husband. Oh, wow, that allowed me to get a lot of help that I needed and work with a neuroscience expert so I could understand what was going on in my mind, and then go from like literally losing everything to manifesting, parts of my dream life. And I say parts of my dream life because there's going to be more in terms of my dream life. So look at your debt and be like, wow, I'm so grateful that was actually there for me, and that I was in a situation where I could like, they could lend me money. That is a form of abundance. This is related, right? So in addition to forgiving your debt, you also have to forgive your family of origin. Most of us have a lot of scarcity mentality from our families. I have an immigrant family. I saw a video the other day on YouTube. I'm going to see if I can find it again, where basically immigrants and immigrant parents train their kids to be poor, and it's true. Because they're trying to keep their kids safe, but in trying to keep their kids safe, there's a lot of scarcity mentality that goes along with that. So that's something that I've really had to learn how to rewire in my life, because I did come from a family where there was a lot of scarcity and a lot of anxiety around money. Regardless of whether we had money or not, money was an anxious topic. So we have to forgive our family of origin. The next one is that we have to learn to rewire our beliefs about money. So for example, a really common belief that people have is I have to work hard to make money. Well, if we follow principle number 3 that we talked about in the beginning of this video, money can come in all kinds of ways, many of which don't include work at all. So that would be a belief that we have to rewire. That's also very common in immigrant families, but that's basically common everywhere. You have to work hard to make money. Money is hard to come by. Rich people are greedy. Money's bad. It's dirty. I can't make money doing what I love. We have so many different beliefs around money, and we have to start becoming very conscious of what those beliefs are and actually rewiring them. And I'll share a recent one from my life. So earlier I said how prosperity is an internal state, and I gave the example of how I was in a meditation, and in that meditation it said, hey, open some seats to the public for your YouTube workshop and sell some seats to the public. Open it up. Now, what's interesting, right, is I mentioned how I had never gotten results like that before from social media posts. I always had to have a sales conversation. I was never very good at selling things just off of social posts or just off of email, just a few emails, right? I always had to have some sort of a conversation, or there was always an objection, or there was always something. This time around, I actively started rewiring that belief. So if I would notice that coming up, and I would notice that belief and that thought of, oh man, I can't sell out these workshops just from social media posts and emails, I would actively stop in that moment and rewire it. So in the beginning, before I'd made any sales to these workshops, that belief was coming up. So I had to rewire it. I said, I can sell out workshops from social media and emails. I can sell out courses from social media and emails. And then what I would do is I would give myself evidence, and I'd be like, well, I did it years ago. I mean, sure, I was running ads to it, but I was still doing it years ago. Or I've sold a few things here and there from email, and the potential is there. Maybe it hasn't been consistent, but the potential is there because I've done it before. Or I would say things like, well, if other people can do it, why can't I? Right? Like if they can do it, that's evidence that I can do it. So I really started working on that, and within 24 hours, I started getting sales off of social media posts and emails. And then every time it comes up again, I am reworking that belief again. I am identifying it, I am changing it, and I am providing evidence. And since then, and that was a couple weeks ago, I've had people slide into my DMs that didn't even comment on any of the posts asking me for more information, dates that they want to join us. I have DMs coming from people who are like, hey, my spouse wants to join your workshop. I didn't go out looking for these DMs. They're all coming to me. On our Entrepreneur Expat channel, we're doing a boot camp, and we had people finding our YouTube channel and then buying that boot camp within 24 hours. So suddenly it started shifting and changing, and a lot of it is because I recognized that belief and I started to rework it and change it, and I continue to do so. So that's an example. You have to identify what those beliefs are, and you constantly have to rework them. Next is you can practice spending money. So let's say I have 100 Mexican pesos in my hand right now, which I think is $6 or $7. Like I said, right now with the current exchange rate, it fluctuates. But I could walk around all day, right? And I'd be like, what could I spend these 100 Mexican pesos on? I don't actually have to spend it, right? I could pretend I'm spending it. Oh, maybe I go to the clothing store and I get a t-shirt. Oh, maybe I go get, one of those coffees that I really like. Oh, maybe I buy this thing at the pastry shop. I can just pretend and go on and on and on. So that's one of the things that you can do is you can start expanding your imagination on the things that you would spend money on. And this is very helpful because what happens most of the time is because we think we don't have money, then we don't dream anymore. And the thing is that money needs some sort of a container to come in. Like, it's very difficult for most people to manifest money for the sake of manifesting money. I'm working on that one, but it's difficult for most people to do. However, if they have some sort of a certain goal or something that they would like to spend money on, then money is like, ding, 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 I have a funnel to go to, right? I have a container to go to. I have a usefulness. I have a purpose. So this particular exercise helps you exercise that muscle to start dreaming again and being like, oh, this is what I would spend money on. And then guess what happens? You're going to manifest a bunch of opportunities to create that money to buy the thing that you want. Now, this next one was taught to me by one of my teachers here in Mexico. And I've actually never heard this before, so I'm going to share it with you guys, and I'm going to use the bills as an example. So the way that it was taught to us is you receive money with your left hand. The left is considered the feminine, right? And what is the feminine about? Receiving. And then you give money with your right hand. Now, this makes a lot more sense if you're living in a cash society. I know, for example, in the US and Canada, people use less and less cash and they mostly use cards. But here in Mexico, people still use a lot of cash right, for a lot of things. So that's why they were sharing this one with us, right? So if we receive money, we do it with the left. If we're giving money, we do it with the right. And they had us do this really interesting exercise where we just practiced receiving money with the left and giving it with the right. I'll do it again, right? We just practice and practice and practice. That actually leads me to the next point, which is you want to learn how to alchemize your triggers. So what I mean by that is you want to notice when you get very triggered by a financial situation, and then you want to learn how to alchemize it. So I'll give an example, the bills again. We did an exercise with our teacher, and he's like, all right, so you receive in the left and you give with the right. And he had us close our eyes while we were doing this. So we were like this. And then he walked around while we were doing this and like ripped dollar bills out of our hands. So when he did it with me, I was left with one bill. So he ripped like 4 out of my hand. And at first I was like shocked. I was like, well, I wasn't expecting him to do that, right? But then I just kept going like this. And part of the exercise was for us to realize, hey, how did you feel when I ripped the money out of your hand? And some people were like, oh, I was so pissed, right? And other people were like, I was a little like shocked at first, like a little jarred because I wasn't expecting it, but I just kept moving what I had. I kept moving the one bill that I had left. So you want to pay attention to your triggers and how you're responding to those triggers. Similar to the example I gave where I got an unexpected IRS bill and I was pissed off and I was triggered. And then I had to realize, wait, why am I triggered? And then rework it, practice gratitude, and alchemize it. Number 10 is if you want to attract abundance into your life, you give value out into the world. So for example, the YouTube channels that we have are an example of giving value. That YouTube workshop that I keep mentioning in this video is an example of giving value out into the world. I'm helping somebody, I'm giving them value through videos, through education, through courses, through things that solve their problems, and then I receive value in the form of money. So give value out into the world. Be generous with the value that you are giving out into the world. Most people walk around with real stank-ass attitudes and they don't want to give anything out into the world, and then they expect that the world is going to bend to them. And it's not quite like that. You have to change your internal state first, give that value out into the world, and you will receive value in the form of money or currency. And number 11, which is the bonus, right, is prioritize pleasure. Now, this one can get a little confusing for people, and a lot of it has to do with our deeply rooted beliefs about money and sacrifice and also pleasure being a bad thing. So if you grew up in the West like I did and you're in like Judeo-Christian type of culture, you got a few ideas. Money is bad, sex is bad, pleasure is bad, everything is suffering and sacrifice, pick yourself up by your bootstraps if you're American. So we got all this programming about how all these things are bad. So one of the things that we have to learn to rewire is that none of these things are bad, including pleasure. Now, what does pleasure have to do with money specifically? Well, if we look at the chakra system, which are these energetic centers in the bodies that a lot of wisdom traditions kind of agree upon what those energy centers mean. If we look at the second chakra, which is the womb area for women, and then, just do the equivalent for men, just that wouldn't be the womb for men, but it represents the sex organs, right? So it's like below the navel. If you are a man, then what happens, right, is that energy center is the one that's associated with creation, pleasure, money, sex, right? It's all in the same energy center. So what happens is if we really want to cultivate abundance into our lives, then we have to start prioritizing pleasure. Pleasure is a birthright. This is so challenging for people, and myself included. I'm actually giving myself a pleasure experiment where I'm prioritizing my own pleasure for 30 days, and pleasure could be anything. It could be literally sex if you want to take it there. It could be creative pursuits and creative projects like this video is right now. It could be, Justin got us an at-home sauna. He actually just fired it up, which is why I'm bringing that up. And that's pleasurable. It could be like, buying a certain perfume. It could be, spending a little extra time in bed. It could be whatever it is for you, right? Whatever is pleasurable to you, prioritize that. And what's interesting is when I started prioritizing pleasure, I started manifesting money more easily. Now, this used to be very challenging for me. I grew up Catholic. I grew up in Judeo-Christian society. So I had a lot of real wonky stories around money and pleasure, both. But I was okay with creativity, which is actually associated with it. But money and pleasure were always difficult for me. So I've had to do a lot of work on that sacral area. And one of the things I've noticed is like, oh, the days that I prioritize my pleasure, oh, here comes a DM of somebody wanting to buy something from me without me even trying. And this is very opposite to what was going on before, because when I had tried these things before, I didn't trust that the money was going to show up if I spent time in pleasure. And in addition to that, I had a belief that I had to sacrifice in order to make money. So if I'm in pleasure, I'm not sacrificing. And if I'm not sacrificing, then I'm not making money. So I've had to actively rewire that belief to say prioritizing pleasure brings more abundance into my life. Prioritizing pleasure brings more prosperity into my life. And if we use the mirror principle, which I'm going to bring up in another video, then our outside reality is just reflecting our internal state anyway. So these are 11 ways that you can build money momentum and cultivate an abundance mindset. Let me know which one was your favorite below and which one you're actually going to try. As always, thank you so much for giving me your time today. If you want to take the steps in this video a step further, then we do have our Money Mindset Reset course, which is now available. You can find it in the link below. Give this video a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.